Well, hundreds of protesters in Lebanon's northern city of Tripoli have clashed with troops for a second night. In the last 48 hours, at least one protester has been killed and dozens have been injured on both sides. The country is experiencing a resurgence in violent riots triggered by an economic crisis made worse by the pandemic. Well, let's talk this through with Timur Azhari, a journalist based in Beirut who's been covering these protests from the beginning. Timur, these people are desperate, aren't they? This is about hunger, survival.
Yes, I mean, we've seen coronavirus upturn countries across the world. The problem is that in Lebanon, unemployment was already projected to be 50% before COVID-19 hit. Inflation was projected to be about 27%. The country is in the midst of its worst ever financial and economic crisis. And the social affairs minister now estimates that 75% of the population of about, just over 6 million needs some kind of aid. Lebanon has handled the coronavirus quite well, actually. It's managed to flatten the curve. The problem is that the government has provided very little aid. And so we have seen just really, public anger flaring. And yes, over the past 48 hours in northern Tripoli and in other cities across the country, we've basically seen people turn more and more to violence, violence against, property mostly. Last night we had a number of banks torched, even a branch of the central bank torched, as people become extremely angry. And now there are sort of fears that the second wave of these protests that is now beginning may actually lead to a resurgence of COVID-19 as hundreds of people mix in the streets.
So what do you think might happen next? What is the government likely to do? Because the anger in terms of the mishandling of the aid programme is completely levelled at the government and the central bank, as you mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, the government is in quite a difficult spot because the resources of the Lebanese state are extremely limited now. They've been trying to hand out this 400,000 Lebanese pounds of aid for several weeks. And during that time, the currency has depreciated so much that it used to be worth about $150, and now it's worth 100. Obviously, this is already a very meager amount of aid. And so it's really hard to see things calming down. Most analysts and experts will say that the only way out of Lebanon's crisis is through long-term reform, through seeking international aid to try and get some money circulating in the country again. But people need money now, and they need assistance now, and it's very difficult to see that coming forth. And so we really can expect these protests to continue a bit.